Greetings and salutations. It's Wednesday. It's not 6 o'clock. It's something after 5 o'clock because our production department is full of it. And we have a guest. We'll talk to him shortly.
Hola, Colin.
Gary, how's it, my boy?
Yeah, I'm cool.
We're back at Swartkorps, eh?
We're doing our thing.
So, today, this is the 72nd episode of Waved Yellow. So, there was a debate. Do we call it murder? Do we call it Lotus? Do we call it Colin? Or do we just go with Monza?
Monza.
Why?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Why don't we just call it Up the Hill?
Yeah, we're going up the hill. So, going up the hill, we with Wicked Willie, they call him. Wilhelm Baard, the reigning champion of Samola Hill Climb.
Yes, good afternoon.
Willie, you're kind of quick.
Well,
are you nervous or are you just like shivering because it's cold?
both actually. I don't like cameras. I don't like all the attention or whatever. But it's look, we've been there since almost the beginning, not the first year. Started in 2010. Our involvement, and we were quick from the beginning. So,
but Willie, you've been quick all along. You've come from, you were quick testing Datsuns and Nissans back at product development in Roslyn and throwing them down off the edges of hills and scribbling them, and hence Wild Willie, Wicked Willie. But you're a quick racing driver, and this is not your first rodeo up the hill.
no, I think the wild probably comes from the Wild Group N days. Those were wild indeed by today's standards. But yes, it's something that's always been with me. So, better use the cards that were dealt and play with them.
You use cars to their full potential, and I've driven with a few people, but you've got feeling in your bum and your fingers, and empathy with cars as well, and you understand the mechanical bits and pieces about cars. Has that sort of helped you in driving race cars and quick around the track and up hills?
I think workers help because you get subjected to lots of conditions. So when we do test cars, we test them in all sorts of conditions, from ice to snow to rain, and that's helped probably with a feeling. But I think it needs to be there.
Just hold on a minute. Backing up a little bit, Willie, you employed by Nissan Japan as a South African, and part of your skill set, your speciality is to drive cars quickly and evaluate and bring back what the pure numbers can't say. Bring that feeling, that emotional part back, and feed that back into the design department in Japan.
Well, not racing, so it depends on what the concept of the car is, obviously. But obviously, we need to drive a little bit higher than what's maybe the normal guy. So we need to consider media. We need to consider a little bit of above average customer, just to make sure that we cover all our bases. But yeah, as I said, that's helped with the racing part of it. Maybe that's just an extension of what happened afterwards. But as I said, it's always been something that I wanted to do. When I got the opportunity, the cards were dealt. I played them probably correctly at the time. But I think there was also a lot of team managers between then and now that's been very angry with me, because lots of cars were also damaged quite extensively. When
you raced, word around the paddock was that you were a hard competitor, but you never went out to bash somebody, or did you?
Look, Group N was absolutely no quarter given, no nothing. So if there was half a gap, you had to quickly decide, and very quickly decide, if this was doable or not. And sometimes you take a 50-50 as you well know, you take a 50-50 and it's halfway through it, you almost understand this is not a 50-50.
I was thinking more of a 40-60.
There's some tolerance in the 50-50, but that was racing at the time, and I think if you probably a lot of that started in the UK with touring cars, and it was really door handle to door handle, no mirrors on the car when you get back, and the bumpers had scrapes and marks on them, but that was racing at the time, and I think that was fantastic. So a lot of people, those were the days when you go to the stands, and there's like an Opel section, and there's a Nissan section, and there's an Alfa Romeo. So all the marks and the brands were there.
And then we had my section.
Gary, what was your section?
The drinking section.
Yeah, that thing had a whole lot of these things and a whole lot of these big boxes with ice and a whole lot of...
But Gary, you remember back in the day with Group N and touring cars, you were a marshal, and we know that racing can't do so good without marshals.
Yeah, but I was also, those were the days when they used to have things called catch fences.
Yeah, but don't you hate
and
it when...
you know I pulled out a catch fence once or twice?
No, Gary, who did you pull out a catch
gentleman.
fence? What do you mean once or twice? He was in there lots, eh?
I'm sorry, Gary.
You never got the catch fence.
Luckily, one of Wilhelm's sponsors was Cornwright Motors, the greatest panel beater in the Midrand area. First of all, that shop...
I was banned also once, so...
Why were you banned?
So you are naughty.
No, but I
it was an unfair ban, wasn't it?
In my mind, it was unfair, but I learned an important lesson there. So the tribunal at the end was, I could have avoided the incident. So
hold on, who was head of that tribunal?
I can't remember, to be honest.
There was Lance.
Not Lance, no.
Because they gave me. I tell you what. No, we're not going to go there. So you thought that you were unfairly treated?
At the time, yes, because I was pushed from behind. I had Goddard next to me, and I had Silvio Scribanti, I think, in front of me.
Well, there's disaster waiting for a place to happen.
I just could not get out of it. But the bottom line was I was the car behind, and I should have probably slow down. But I think, as I've said, it's taught me a valuable lesson, and it's almost something that when you watch racing now on telly and whatever, that's something that I probably look at quite a lot, is could you have come out of that? So it's just we sit.
Do you regret any of those moments of contact, shall we call them?
Not at all. To us, that was racing at the time, and I think part of the excitement, that was part of the show that we provided to the people, and I think that's why there were crowds and there were characters, not only brands. There was lots of stories of Sarel and Schechter and me and other people, and but that was the sport at the time, and I think maybe that's missing at the moment.
Just before you go to the next one, do you know, is it Marne or Morne or Baard?
The better half, that's my name.
Oh, well, she's watching you.
Oh, very good.
You better say good evening. You better say good evening.
Hello, darling.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, my Nike.
So
there's always a surprise when people type comments. There's always a surprise comment coming up. Trust me.
So Gary keeps an eye on the. We've got probably 3.5 million. We've got probably 3.5 million viewers. It's unbelievable how things go from
I don't know
Alaska.
where he manufactures these figures from, but I'll leave him with it.
Because he takes his first show and he counts everything up to now. He tries to put everything together.
He's just adding things on and on and on. And say, well, in that case,
Okay,
I will take it.
Gary, there are a lot. So Gary, Gary checks out who's and sorts out the comments. So the question today for the prize, and sadly last week we couldn't avoid the award the prize because nobody really answered correctly. But the prize today, and there is a hamper, and the hamper comes to you from, well, a mystery sponsor.
Good to have Mr. Hasty.
No, mystery sponsor. And that it is the best Wilhelm Baard moment, most spectacular moment in his racing career. Do you think, Willie, that I don't want to call it wildness, but the enthusiastic times of your youth, what have they taught you as you've got a little bit older? And I know there's grey hair in that hair that if it got a little bit longer. What is that, the exuberance of youth, how is that mellowed into the wisdom of age?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I think it's experience, and it's every little bit that you get or gain, you apply to that the next time you go out. I have a very different approach to setting up cars. I have a different approach to events, like the hill climb.
Just whoa. Back up a little bit. In your youth, I imagine you would have set the car up as loose as and driven it more on reaction. What is the change between then and the setup and the feeling you want from a car now?
I had a guy called Rodney. I forgot. Rodney Landman that helped Peter Corner for in the team, and Rodney to me was like an absolute master in teaching me the value of feedback and whatever, and that also taught me the value of the technical guy that you are talking to. So I think without a technical person that understands your feedback from the car and set the car up accordingly.
So just go back, so for people who are watching us, you have a feeling in the car and you've got to translate that back to the engineer who needs to translate that back into changes to the car.
Correct. So without that, I think most drivers are probably nothing. You can have a fast car, but if it's not handling, if it's not doing something absolutely to the T, something like the hill climb, we are talking fractions of a second. So, and you need to extract everything in the very, very final run. So everything leads up to that moment, and yes, you need somebody that can translate what you are feeling. So if you don't have that person, I take my hat off to the Willie Ebbins of this world, that's in his 70s and still takes the tyres out himself and puts it on the car himself and carries on. I don't know how he does that, but my hat off.
Because he's Willie.
But so we need that. So you need, for me, this is like a team sport like almost no other. And people only look at the driver or the car or the whatever, but behind that there's so much going on, and without that there's nothing. If you understand, you cannot approach the hill climb or any event without the total support.
So you made the transition from track guy. And we're not going to go through the whole history of motor dealers and You ended up with a GTR going up the hill, well, after chucking it away at, where was that you threw one away?
Long Tom went off
Actually, you're talking about that. Long Tom, and that there's a bit of a sidekick online here, Colin. He says the hill climb near Nelspruit, that was spectacular.
Yeah, so that was Long Tom. I won the event by 6 seconds, so probably the biggest win I've ever had in my life. But I did not bring the car back. So that
6 seconds, was that a deep breath and pin it? And
no, the car we were far away from running quick at the time. So the run I lost it. It was the first run we tried at the right power, and
it's not a nice feeling chucking a car off the edge of a hill.
Well, the brakes. There were no brakes when I braked, but that was part of the story there. The speeds were very, very high, and we asked maybe just too much of the brakes. 5 times up at those speeds, and eventually they gave way. So
you left foot brake and balance the car on the brakes and throttle at the same time.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and it's very difficult for me to explain. So hill climb, I do both because it's good for some corners, and I am not so comfortable doing it in other corners. So it's got to do with what I'm comfortable and can do without applying my mind. It happens automatically, and if you need to think, it's too late. It just needs to happen automatically. And
so many quick drivers say that there's the mechanical part about driving the car, and then the other part that's doing all the strategy part of it. But let's just take a couple of steps back. You make the transition from track to hill climb. What are the differences from a car point of view, number one, and secondly from a driver point of view in going up a 2-odd kilometer hill climb as opposed to round and round a racetrack?
Oh, there's many answers in this. So you touched on the dealer thing, and it's an important part of the hill climb. So we were one of 2 GTR dealers in South Africa, and the reason why we went down to the hill climb was to take a standard car down and show what a standard car can do. And the first year, so 2010, we had an absolute, and people probably till today will not believe it. There's good sight at the time absolutely did not believe it, but it was a box standard car. Chassis
Group N standard or real standard?
No. Real box standard car, but 200 and something extra horsepower. So it.
How did you get that horsepower?
No, that's boost and bits and pieces, turbo and whatever. But what we did want to show was that you do not need a race car. This car is good enough to go up there like that. And we ran the quickest time in the dry, the quickest time in the wet, and Jeff Mortimer just pipped us at the end. So I was second in the first year.
What's that like? You know, Jeff's not a kid anymore. And he's one of the old race tuners who works on the car himself and figures stuff out and then drives the hell out of it. You got to respect a guy like that.
No, of course. I got quite emotional the year I won. So the next year, 2011, because Jeff was still probably the number one competitor.
It was in the yellow Mitsubishi, eh?
Was it yellow? Yes, it was yellow. So, yeah, and I got emotional on the stage. I thought I would never get emotional about things like this. So in front of everybody, got almost in tears when I was talking about Jeff and asked him to come up to the stage. So I've got big respect for him, but many guys like that. So Willie.
Let's go back to the car.
Okay, so
the hill.
Yeah, so going back to racing is probably easy. Let's go, you want to do a quick time at a track, you want to go qualify, so everything goes up to that moment. But qualifying, you get the tire temperature right, you get everything right, so then you go on a lap. The hill climb is absolutely not like that. You have no idea what to expect or get, what you will get at the first corner. The car is, of course, it's on warmers or tire warmers, but you pull away. And the first corner you just pray because you have absolutely no reference. It's probably the first time that you've bolted on new rubber because that's what you keep for the last runs and whatever. So you arrive at that corner praying, and when you have grip and when you have whatever, then you have bigger goons for the next one, and will probably adjust your normal brake marker a little bit more, and
so it's a confidence thing. So the first corner gives you the feeling of how hard you can attack.
Yeah, of course, the first corner at Knysna is probably the most important corner because it's the hill is after that, and it's a long straight. So the better you exit that first corner, is the better you will. You can never get that back. So if you lose anything there, you take all your losses all the way up the hill. So
and it hits you in the head with
yeah. That's and I've stuffed it up there numerous times. So where you go down a gear or it's not reacting, and then you pull and then you've pulled twice. Do you understand? So you gear down too much. And one interesting story about last year was in the class final, I did make an error there, a slight error, and the data that came back showed us that that was actually better than what we did before. So
once you thought you made a mistake, but you were right. But Gary, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. The guy that was supposed to be on the show this evening, that we planned there, your chum,
The Flying Dutchman.
Richard Rutz, he says, how's it, Wilhelm?
how's it?
Sien op die berg, chum.
Yes.
Since we're on air, let's just challenge Richard right now.
What's the challenge?
No, hold on. Reggie had to go back. He was going to be here.
No.
And then he had to go back.
No, I'm talking about that. Reggie, tell us right now when we can expect you sitting in the seat. Go on. Yeah. Up to you, boy.
That's so scary. All right, so you made a mistake and you learned. What was the mistake, by the way? You went into a lower gear. Higher gear, I mean like a higher number.
That's my problem.
I want to talk. So you talk a little bit about the driving. What specifically in the car are you looking at changing? So you got a standard GTR. You put wings and carbon fiber and silicon and all sorts of unobtainium at it. But what are you looking for on that car to go quickly up the hill?
There's three parts for me. The hill time is three parts. So one is the start. You need to be able to launch. For that you need grip and you need power. The first corner, as I've said, is important because then you take everything with you up the hill. There you need power.
Like I said a couple of times before, we maybe end up with a bit of tyre on the front spoiler.
Yeah. But after that, you need grip. And it comes back to normal racing stories. The more grip you have, the better balance you have, the better you will exit the corner. So if you exit a corner at a higher speed, you will reach whatever straight comes after that at a higher, your velocity.
Carry that speed all the way down the street.
Carry it through. No amount of horsepower is going to catch that up because you will only get the benefit of all the horsepower probably towards the end. And if you have too much horsepower, you are just going to screw yourself up going out of the corner because you have no grip.
A racing driver says too much horsepower. So how much is too much?
I have asked for more where
Really?
where they have said to me, this is enough, and then I want more. Yesterday I tested, so I have not driven the car for quite some time, and we had some issues yesterday. But you get in the car the first time and it's, oh wow, this is a lot. You understand? It really scares you probably the first time you get subjected to it, but then very soon after that you get used to it and a little bit.
And then you want more.
And then a little bit later you say, okay, I'm ready for more. So this is a normal story.
Gary.
Just before we go, Wilhelm Baard says, hello, Dad. He's surprised to see you on our show. I didn't know he was a fan of ours. And then Greg Charman asks, any chance or any interest in doing Pikes Peak?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Pikes Peak is a law on its own, but I think Pikes now is ICE engines internal combustion engines they're gone. I think Pikes is 15,000 feet. That's the top. I mean, that's in the cloud somewhere. You need oxygen there. Well, I will need oxygen there. But of course, Pikes is probably the reference for all hill climbs. But now you need an electric car to do that. And lots of budgets. Of course, any motorsport, even the hill climb, Knysna has lots of budget. But I think Pikes is the mother of all hill climbs. So that in to maybe tick off Goodwood is another one. But Goodwood is probably like Monaco. It's everybody is there. It's a show and go. But it's still like Monaco is a tick list for Formula One drivers. I think. Hill climb guys, probably Pikes and Goodwood is another one.
So just going back to the amount of horsepower, and we know that it's relatively simple to make huge amount of horsepower, but the play-off or the trade-off between horsepower and drivability, at what point do you dial back the power to get the drivability?
It needs to be drivability for me is everything, because that's how you exit the corner. If you have nothing and everything comes in with a bang, you will lose grip, and again you need to come off the power to regain it. So it's probably a fine balance. So that's why I say, if you have enough grip coming out, if you have probably variable power delivery, and what I mean with that is with a GPS or whatever, you come out of a corner with 600 and a couple of meters later you have 1,000, that's fine, but coming out of a corner with 1,000, probably not so good. So it's a fine balance. It's
your piece of road that you would really like to have a go in let's take your GTR with proper sticky tires and everything wound up. What would be your favorite piece of road?
Nürburgring, that's it.
For a lap. But you've been around there plenty.
I've been plenty. I think it's I've always said the God himself put that piece of tar down there, and then I learned that it was Hitler that that did that. So maybe not so good to say that. But anyway, it's probably the I don't know, the best piece of road there is. I think Road Atlanta in the US also very good. You need fast corners. The one track in South Africa which I say is tests any driver. Well, there's no test like that. Is East London, and particularly if you potters and rifle.
But also the entrance into the complex, that quick right-hander to get the thing settled to turn left.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's.
There's no fear there.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I had fear through Potters, and Potters I probably had one of my biggest accidents as well. But it's that's what you need. You need, and I think that's also what will probably one driver to another driver. You will quickly see the differences where you will need absolute commitment at super high speed. That's where there is a difference between
and there's a difference between having big balls and being brave.
I think big balls is just stupidity, and we've all done that. We've all been there. We've all done that. So it's a fine line, but also how to test the limit without testing where the limit is. So sometimes you do test the limit, and sometimes you go over it.
How do you know you're getting close to the limit?
The steering feel that you get, the feel in your bum. It's the car gets light, the steering gets light, and you understand that you are now very close to the limit of adhesion of the tire, and that's just feeling. It's very difficult to explain, but as I say, sometimes you go over it, and the tighter the limits are, the easier it is to make a mistake. So if you have super sticky tires, the grip level and the G level is super high, but once you go over a little bit of an edge, you're gone. So there's very little window of opportunity to catch and whatever, and that's where the good drivers and probably not so good drivers shine. They can drive absolutely on the tire limit. I've always said there's no such thing as a perfect lap, and I still believe that. I still believe there's an extra millimeter or 2 millimeters or a couple of centimeters that you could have braked later or probably earlier to get a better exit. So I still maintain there's no such thing as a perfect lap.
Gary, you were here yesterday when Wilhelm was testing the car, and you were blown away by the aero on it.
Some of the most amazing aero I've ever seen put onto, especially compared to last year's car.
So what were the bits that impressed you the most from the changes from last year's car to this one, Gary?
I think the new front end, the new way they've designed the front spoiler, and the what do you call those little aero things that create your canards. Yeah.
We'll go with canards.
And also they've moved the wing on the car, so the wing's in a slightly different position, and a lot bigger the diffuser coming out the back. So we'll probably do quite a bit of that at the hill. Some real technical stuff with Willem and the team at the hill on practice days. I mean, actually give people a real perspective of what the car's like. But it is super impressive, and it is our favourite products. Carbon fibre and unobtainium.
Where's the silicon?
Oh, and there's a bit of Kevlar in it too. But I won't ask you where the Kevlar is.
Yeah, have to have Kevlar. So, from an aero point of view, on a hill climb car, at what sort of speeds do you start feeling the influence of aero?
I think we probably set up or try to set up for 1 and 2, and then I call them squigglies, but all the S's and the corners right at the end. That's where you need it, but it's a trade-off. The more aero you put on, the more drag you put onto the car, the less speed you will get up the hill. So it's absolutely a trade-off of getting the right speed into the corner, getting the right speed out of the corner, and not trading off too much drag going up the hill. The aero, everybody is of course an expert on aero.
Yeah, especially the car builders in South Africa. Everybody's one.
So and we've had a little bit of that over the past couple of seasons or tries that we've gone to the hill. It's everybody's best guess and the specialist and that specialist. And even we went to the States to the guys that's actually doing GTRs up pikes. But the success we've had at the hill climb, we've had an open door from Knysna. They basically congratulated us last year. We're fortunate, and Ian, all hats off to him with his event because it goes out globally. So we were congratulated, and of course we took the opportunity to ask, well, can you give us some advice? We know, of course, that sponsorship and stuff like that is probably not possible, but yes.
But sometimes the advice is worth more than the...
Absolutely. So they opened their doors to us. We had a meeting in July last year with them. They analysed quite a few things from all the tries that we had, so video material and whatever. Looked at the detail of the car, told us some of the bits and pieces we can actually throw away. The standard car is better.
What were those bits?
Lots of aero. So the wing designs that we had, the front splitter designs that we had. So and it's amazing to sit with people that understand the platform to a T. They've gone through all the bits and pieces. They've had the car in a wind tunnel. They race in various series, so they understand what is possible, what is not possible, what will work, what will not work. And then finally they gave us a parts list that they have available. Most of that is GT3 from the GT3 program, and so that's what we've got. Normally if you don't have a GT3 car you don't get bits and pieces, but I think from the success we've had, from what we maybe contribute to GTR as a brand, and I think the exposure they get, it probably was worth their while to give us their advice and to open their parts bin. So
so they open their parts bin and you open the...
You open the wallet, of course.
Very wide.
Very wide.
Gary.
None of those things come cheap, but so what Gary has said, the front end, the floor, the front fenders, all of it is basically from existing Nissan racing products.
Hugo Richards, you know him?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, he just a little comment over here, right? #peanut.
#peanut.
Yeah, what is that about?
2017.
This is a little bit of an emotional one for you, I do understand.
Yeah, 2017. So the morning of the hill climb, morning of the final, the Sunday, our dogs are like children in our house. So
what kind of dogs are they?
Chinese crested terriers. So one of the four, we had four. So one of the four, Peanut, he was at the vet already, and then I saw a missed call 2:00 in the morning from the vet. So I knew probably not so good news. And then I phoned my wife and got confirmation that the dog died during the night. So that day was a super emotional day for me. I think I sat in the car after that event for 5 minutes before climbing out. I could not even get my helmet off. So I just poured out when. So Peanut, that's what the Peanut story is.
Okay, cool.
Peanut will be on the car and lots of photos. So hopefully Peanut will be remembered by lots more than just us.
Now, besides that, and just asking you as a racing driver, and I understand how certain things do, and I don't know if you watch some of the stuff that Colin and I do. We speak a lot to the GT3 guys, we speak a lot to GTC and all that. When an emotional event like that happens to you on the day that you're actually going to compete, does it make that event more difficult, or you manage to cut that emotional out of your mind and just concentrate on the job?
I think when you go up the hill, any hill, racetrack, whatever, but I think maybe more so with hill climbs, because hill climbs have no runoff area. So if there's a mistake, it's probably going to be not so nice.
Yeah.
You need to be absolutely in your own space, and it's something that we've taught ourselves. I was asked yesterday what preparation I do. I was actually embarrassed about it because I don't do a hell of a lot, but mental preparation and mental strength at the hill climb is probably 50, 60, 70% of what you need. You need to be absolutely spot on concentrating on what you are going to do. So I think any event outside of that gets closed out, and I don't think it makes it more difficult or easier or anything. It's just something that we have to go through. I think my wife leaves me completely, understands, do not even go close at X time before the run, because I just close off and concentrate on what I need to do.
So who are you going to who have you got to beat to win this thing again, Wilhelm?
Everyone. I think every year again, hats off to the event. Every year the competition gets more severe, more people arrive, and more people that potentially can take it. So I'm not going to stick my head out and say this guy is going to do it and that. Invariably I'll make a mistake and forget somebody. So I'm all the normal suspects will be there. But yeah, I think it's going to be fiercer than before. As I say, more people, more cars, and the only good thing from our side is that we are probably the benchmark. We know what we have done wrong last year. We know what we needed to do to improve. That's the bit the other guys do not have.
So basically, you've got to go out there and be the fastest Wilhelm in the world.
Yeah, on the day, given the conditions, whatever. So there's only one run. So the run before, the times don't count. So there's only one run to do it. It's only 1.9 kilos, so not so much time. It's less than 40 seconds. So the winning times will be by fractions. And as I said, everything needs to work. The car needs to work. You need to work, and small mistakes will cost it.
So here we are, sitting with a guy. He's getting nervous already. You can just check this out. Jaguar Samola Hill Climb. It's always the first weekend of May. It's 1.9 kilos, 38 seconds, 36 seconds if you're in a single-seater Gould, and we're going to talk to the driver of that. Gary, very quickly.
Yes, just before you go on, I just let everybody out there know that we will have the privilege of being on the hill with these guys, and we'll be bringing you the whole hill climb live streamed. So guys, stick with us. We'll keep you updated as we go between now and the start of the hill climb, but it will be live, and a lot of exciting stuff's going to happen when we go live.
Going to be fun.
Yeah.
Right, quickly, just very happy birthday to Johan Fourie.
Yeah.
He won this last weekend. Absolutely awesome races in G&H Transport Supercars. And congrats to Franco Scribanti. I believe he's got a car coming that you might want to have a look at. That might be F for fast. So they say, some say. And then it's Monza Blancpain. So we're looking for the number 66 at Tempo Racing, Colin van der Linde. It's going to be a magnificent race. Gary?
Just before you finish that, don't forget that, all those of you who don't know, our own South African young Tasman Pepper
In the W
in
series?
the double series.
W for women?
She's gone overseas. They start testing this weekend. So we'll keep an eye on her. And then towards the end of May is their first race. But we'll keep you updated with all that info.
Gary, that's on the 3rd or 4th of May when we at Samola for the Jaguar Samola Hill Climb.
Correct.
They are at Hockenheim
Yeah.
for the W Series and the DTM. And we're also going to see Sheldon van der Linde and Jordan Pepper.
Yep.
So there are going to be 2 Peppers active on the day. One, it's a whole lot of things. It's absolutely magnificent. Racing is great. Racing in South Africa is magnificent. Gary, the weather's not so lekker. It's a bit fairly
Yeah,
cock
it's getting
at the moment.
chilly out here. And I've got to do what I've got to do. So I'm going to say adios. We'll see you guys. Oh, we will be live on Friday night. Watch us Friday night. I will post what's going to happen on Friday night, but we will be live. A whole big launch on Friday night. So guys, stay tuned. Watch the space, and you'll understand what it's all about. Meneer,
So I'm quite excited
thank
about
you
that
very much for your time.
because this is this weekend is the 1000th Grand Prix. It's because Alpha won the first Grand Prix, and that's a little hint to what's happening on Friday night. Wilhelm, thank you very much for doing a U-turn after a rainy day and being so honest and sharing some of the stuff with us. And it's been great to see you again.
Yeah.
Wicked Willie, the king of the hill.
Likewise, thank you very much. Adios.
Right, guys, thanks a lot. This is the end of episode 72 of Waved Yellow. Check us out on Friday, brother, from Pretoria for some Italian stallions. In the meantime, stay warm, stay dry, stay happy, and love motorsport. Cheers.